everyone and all the Maharajas, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. I'm very, very excited and happy that you come to this function of the inauguration of the Institute for Spiritual Culture. So first of all, I'd like to tell you a little overview what we will do tonight. I want to say a few words about spiritual culture, just to set the foundation to the following speeches. And after my words, His Holiness Bhakti-Purushottam Swami will speak, and His Holiness Badrinarayan Goswami Maharaj will speak, and the concluding words, His Holiness Shivaram Swami will speak. And then we will leave some little time for questions. Let's see how much we can answer. And then we will have the unveiling of a plaque. We got a very nice plaque made, and we will unveil that and show. And then we will see a 7-8 minute role play, which this year's students of the Institute for Spiritual Culture, which they put together. So they are also a little sick, they had fever, so kindly be merciful if it's not so super fantastic. We simply tried our best. So then after the role play, we will give a few cows in charity. After all, we are here at the Goshala, and any event, there should be cows given in charity. So we've got a few little calves there, which flew in from Vrindavan by Indigo. By Indigo Airlines, they flew in from Vrindavan. So, and then we will serve some little prasadam snack. We will serve some little prasadam snack there in the back. But also I would like to invite all the Maharajas, the Prabhupada disciples, and also the senior managers and leaders of the Mayapur community. I would like to invite them next door to my place, my ashram, and we will serve prasadam there. So even if you don't want to stay to the end, the general devotees, they can already go take a little snack there, and there will be some devotees there to serve. So whenever people they have to go, they have no longer time to stay, they can go there. Because actually the term culture is such a broad term, and we might all understand something different actually under that term. So let us remember how does culture develop? Basically it develops through the practical application of a philosophy. By living a worldview, the culture forms, right? So and of course every country has their culture to some extent, but basically there's only two cultures in this world, and this is materialistic culture and spiritual culture. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes? Otherwise just move a little forward. No need to sit so far away, just come closer, please. So, in spiritual culture, God consciousness is the center of life. Self-realization is the goal of life. So, and according to that worldview, a certain culture develops. And in materialistic culture, sense enjoyment is the goal of life. And according to that worldview, living that worldview, also a certain culture develops. So, and obviously the two worldviews are completely opposite. Completely. And actually the cultures developing who live in that worldview are also completely opposite. In fact, they are actually incompatible, really. You know? The same way how sense enjoyment is really ultimately incompatible with self-realization. Right? So the cultures are actually also incompatible ultimately. So, and actually Krishna describes that in 269 in Bhagavad Gita. He basically says, what is day to the spiritualist is night to the materialist. Yes, he says, what is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Right? So actually what Krishna is talking about is these two cultures, really. So it's a big scale there, and on both ends, on one end is the day of the materialist, and on the other end the day of the spiritualist. Right? But the day of the materialist ultimately has to become the night for the spiritualist. Right? So this is a gradual transformation. Actually, it's a transformation of the heart. This is what Krishna consciousness is all about. It's not just an external thing of wearing a dhoti and going externally through the motions, but it is a much deeper thing, a transformation of the heart. So unless we go through that transformation of the heart, that the day of the materialist becomes our night for us. Our spiritual practice is rather external. It is not really deep. So, and the culture simply helps in making that transformation of the heart. And material life and its culture always actually pulls us away from Krishna consciousness, because it propagates the opposite worldview. Right? Does it make sense what I'm saying? Totally. Okay, good. Yeah, well, often we don't realize how incompatible these two cultures are actually, because they simply propagate the opposite worldview and they reinforce that consciousness, you see. So materialistic culture reinforces material consciousness. And that's the consciousness we don't want as spiritualists. So it's a question of every one of us internally making that transformation so the day of the materialist becomes our night. That's the point. So now, interestingly, any spiritual culture has universal underlying principles, and we can find them in any spiritual culture, in any culture where God consciousness is the center. Doesn't matter whether it's Christian, Muslim, they all do have the same underlying principles, and just they manifest a little different, they develop differently. But one thing is, my humble realization is we have to recognize the underlying principles, and then actually the application will follow automatically. But if we don't recognize the underlying principles, then very easily we lose them in the name of reformation. Right? This definitely has happened in Christianity, or all the underlying spiritual principles, in due course of time, they were lost because people did not recognize the universal principles. So in the name of reformation and progress, they all got lost. And my concern is that the same thing might also be happening in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. If we don't recognize these underlying principles and we preach them and we educate devotees. Yeah, so this basically is the goal of this institute. It's an educational institute within the institution of ISKCON, which simply systematically educates devotees in these underlying principles. And then people can choose consciously how much of which culture they want in their life. But unless we teach these principles, people cannot choose. They simply are, they are simply under the influence of their surroundings, and they cannot make a conscious choice. So this is basically the strong conviction and urge I'm feeling. So now over the last 15 years, I have been serving in Bangladesh 2-3 months per year. And Bangladesh is really the place to experience the sweetness and beauty of spiritual culture. And interestingly enough, it's a Muslim country, and that preserved the culture immensely, because Muslims don't like the modern Western influences. So no other place in the world you find Vaishnav culture as much alive as in Bangladesh. So and there I have learned, by Krishna's mercy, I have learned so much about the importance of these principles of spiritual culture. And I've experienced how much it enhances our spiritual life if we have that support of spiritual culture. So and then 3 years ago, I put a very systematic course together, and I've been teaching it in Mayapur, in Ukraine and in Germany. So now I simply felt it is the time to establish an institute, to make it a little bit more solid. And these wonderful personalities here have kindly agreed to be board members. Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj had to leave Mayapur already, so he's not here now. So this gives me a lot of encouragement that I have that support of these wonderful Maharajas. So I think this is all I want to say. Maybe it's good that I cannot speak too much, so maybe the program will be more auspicious if I'm a little quiet. So now I'd like to invite His Holiness Bhakti Pushram Swami to speak something.
नमो ओम विष्णु पादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवासी प्रार्थनाधिकारिणे. So I am not so much aware of the subject matter, but I know about the culture. So I know why Devaki Mataji is so much in this culture, because she has spent so much time in Bangladesh. How many of you been to Bangladesh? Very few. But Badrinaran Maharaj likes Bangladesh so much that wherever he go all over the world, he shows the pictures of different programs of Bangladesh. And it's true, if you go to Bangladesh, you will feel you are in another planet. Yes, their behavior, their culture, the mood of the devotees is very unique there. And not only the mood and culture of the devotee, even non-devotee karmi people also, even the Muslim people also. As Devaki Mataji said, Bangladesh is not so much influenced by the Western civilization or culture, so it is preserved there. Yes, the culture has a lot to do without devotional life. Culture is not the main factor. You can observe any culture, but you can be devotional minded. Just like tribal people in Orissa, their culture is they'll drink wine and dance. But they'll drink wine and dance, but they'll sing Krishna's pastimes. So that is the beauty. Yes. Some Western devotees they say, what is this culture? It's all Bengali culture. They have their one way of marriage ceremony. Maharashtra have different way of doing ceremony. South Indian different way of doing ceremony. Different part of India, the different things. So what is the Vedic culture? The point is in different part of India, maybe they follow different culture, but they are all Vedic teachings oriented. That is interesting. So spiritual culture is very much, so much is in their blood. So it doesn't matter what kind of lifestyle they maintain. I remember from childhood how the village lifestyle, knowingly or unknowingly, they're all God conscious culture. In village people, I have seen in village, the 4 months they work, 8 months they have no work to do there. Yet they have no work, 4 months they work, the whole year they maintain that. This is not like nowadays. To maintain your life, you have to work hard like a donkey. Not only you will work, you have your wife also has to work in companies. It's very interesting lifestyle nowadays. I go to Orissa, I feel so pity when I see the ladies standing the traffic controller, they are supposed to be happy life inside the house. So they have to stand in traffic, so much hot, so much dust, such a horrible life. So the culture has a lot to do in spiritual life. And actually we are not for the spiritual life. We are more step above spiritual life. Ours is devotional life. A jnani can be spiritual. Yogi can be spiritual. It's religious, spiritual and devotional. They are all different meaning. Religious is different from spiritual. And spiritual is different from devotional. And the devotional is very much connected to culture. Just like in village, as I was telling, it's very common life. Evening time, whole day they will work. Evening time, they go to some place, they must read some Puranas, some spiritual scriptures. It has become so much part of their life. So that helps our spiritual or devotional mood, so that we can carry through this spiritual culture. We get into the culture is very easy. It becomes like part of your life. It gets into your blood. It's very difficult. The example is just like different people of our ISKCON, they have grown up in different culture. So even if they become to devotion life, their culture is so much into their blood. It's very difficult sometimes for them not to give up. The same way, if Krishna consciousness culture, we will get into Krishna consciousness culture, our devotional habit, our attitude, our consciousness will carry on with us. In this way, it helps us. Though culture is not everything for devotional life, but culture plays a great role in the devotional life. So much so, unknowingly, whatever activities you are doing, the devotional or spiritual things are these things are there already. Like in our village, the practicing mridanga in Orissa is very common things. Every young boy's village, they must practice mridanga. Nowadays, of course, by my childhood I have seen, but I know our family members, oh, there are villagers, don't go, they have no work, you study nicely, you are a student, you get into education. Why you are getting into this mridanga things? I like mridanga, hearing mridanga. But I left my house, I came to ISKCON. Then here I see also all our boys from America, Europe, even different countries, they are learning Mridanga also. I thought, oh, these are village cultures. The village boys, they have no work. They don't study, they do the beat Mridanga, do Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But here I saw, oh, I thought America, Europe, so great, we should follow them. But now American Europeans are coming and following our village cultures, playing Mridanga here also. So nice Mridanga they do here. So in this way the culture has a great contribution to our devotional life, to carry us forward in your devotional life. Knowingly, unknowingly, we will live a life like that. So it is very, very important things that Devaki Mataji is doing. I don't know how much people can relate to this, but at this point, where ISKCON is now, that it is very important that we also get into something spiritual culture, devotional culture, to maintain our devotional life. It's very, very important. So it is a good effort, and I know she is a very determined lady. Especially she is from Germany also. Germany is very strong. So she has spent a lot of time in Bangladesh, and I can see she has learned a lot from there, and she has contributed a lot to Bangladesh also. Now she is going to spread these cultural aspects of her devotional life all over the world. It is a very good attempt what she is doing. So I pray the Lordship Sri Radha Madhav, Panchatta Bhagavan, Narsinga Bhagavan, that she gets all kinds of mercy to go forward with her attempt. And I know all kinds of obstacles she will face, because in ISKCON you want to do something, it is not so easy to go forward. So I pray for that. Thank you so much.
Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvasesha Sundari Paskachadi Satari. I started coming to Mayapur 1973, 1974, I forget exactly when. And you know where all those shops are along the wall, the boundary wall? We were staying in those. 6, 7 devotees, 10 devotees, remember that? Just stacked up in there. My temple president, Govardhan Prabhu from the Detroit temple, and man, I can never repay for his kindness, was a little delicate. He would never go to New Vrindavan during the rainy season because he didn't like the mud. So he came, we were staying in this wall, and we were doing our business. Just you walk across Bhaktisiddhanta Marg into the rice field. So, you know, it's 3:30 in the morning, he's got his gumsha on, he walks across there, he's got his flashlight and everything. The first thing that happened was he stepped in a big pile of cow dung, which took him by surprise, so then he dropped his flashlight. So he's out there in the dark alone in his gumsha. So anyway, he goes to brush his teeth, and instead of, you know, in those days we had odomos in a tube. So instead of brushing his teeth with toothpaste, he brushed his teeth with odomos. He was so freaked by that, he actually lost his gumsha, came back to his coat, got in the car the next morning and drove to Calcutta. We didn't see him come back. But the interesting thing, and the point I'm trying to make, is that when he came back, you know, in his coat with odomos, the devotee said, "Oh, Prabhu, this is purifying. It's purifying." And I know that in my early days in ISKCON, this was a common theme, and it still is today. It's purifying. So this idea that human life has a goal, purifying implies contamination, isn't it? If there's not some contamination, what is the need of purification? So instead of a life, nowadays we have a life that is based on accumulation. They have a bumper sticker in America, the one who dies with the most toys wins. And I was thinking, the one who dies with the most toys still dies. Where do the toys go? The dimwit relatives get the toys. Who knows, where do you go in your next life? So beyond accumulation, Antananayana Shmriti, that at the end of life there's a goal, there's a purpose. There's a nice story, because this is my job to tell some stories, so stay true to my nature. A sadhu came to a village, and there was one rich man there. He thought, his friend said, oh, there's some nice sadhus speaking, why don't you come? He thought, oh, these sadhus, they come, they say, words are coming out, they're saying something, but all they really want in the end, they're going to ask for some dakshin, some umbrella, some shoes, some cow, that's all, they're just, it's their business. His friend said, no, this sadhu is different, you please come, he's a nice, all right. He thought afterwards there'll be some prashadam, there'll be a nice meal, so I can sit do anything for an hour as long as it's a nice meal. Not an uncommon thought, actually. So, the man came with his friend, sadhu spoke, Krishna Katha. Sure enough, at the end of the thing, because the sadhu could understand, Prabhupada says the face is the index of the mind. So the sadhu called the man over, the rich man over, and said, you've been sitting very nicely, I want to ask you for something. The rich man thought, here it comes. And just as I predicted, he's going to ask for some money, some cows, some land, something. And the sadhu said, I have this little needle. And I use this little sewing needle for sewing up my cloth, and I'm losing it all the time. He said, I'm wondering if you can keep this needle for me. And in my next life, you just give it back to me. And the rich man thought, wait a minute. I can't make that promise. I can't guarantee a needle. And then it hit him clear as a light. If I can't keep track of a little needle, I don't even think you can buy a single needle in America. I can buy a packet. So if I can't keep track in my next life of one needle, what is the use of all of my things? So this concept that this human form of life is meant for purification. I was in a darshan in Detroit one time, Prabhupada's darshan. And this man was fidgeting, he was moving this. He was obviously impatient, his mind was somewhere else. So Prabhupada asked him, what is the issue? The man said, I'm very late. He said, obviously his wife had dragged him. And he said, I'm late for an important appointment. I have to go, I have a very important appointment. Prabhupada said, you have only one appointment in this life, and you will not miss it. You know what that appointment is? You can open your day timer and say to Yamaraj, no, Thursday, May 15th doesn't work. How about never? Does never work? No. You can't postpone for 1 second. So we all have an inevitable appointment at the time of death, and where do we go? What happens? So I was thinking, something of the time, these archaeologists are always scratching around in the dirt, and they always find these little pot shards, little pieces of pots, and they put them together. And they call it, from the form you can figure out the function. From form comes function. So they figure out, oh, this must have been a pot shaped like this. They must have used it for keeping grain. So they must have an agrarian culture. They develop a whole understanding of the culture from the pot shard. So from figuring the form, they can figure the function, they can figure the whole design and purpose of the culture. So they say. And it's a valid principle on one hand. So if we study this body, what is this body actually designed for? Currently we have a society, it's designed for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But if we're not talking magical thinking, we're not going theological here. Just cold analysis. If we study this body, it is not designed for eating. I mean, we've got these cows, I don't know how much hay they can eat, how much big their stomach are. You take some straw and make some milk. Let me see you do that. So the point is, it's not designed for eating. It's not designed for sleeping. The bear can, we've got some brahmacharis working on it, but bears sleep for so many, So how long can we sleep? Mating speaks for itself. There's rabbits, there's pigeons, there's so many. So defending, what is that guy, Bruce Lee? I don't the big boxer, karate. Put him in the cage with a Bengal tiger. Who are you going to bet on, Bruce Lee or the Bengal tiger? One swat, his head's knocked off. So the point is that if we analyze from the form, what is the function of this body? Man is called the rational animal. I think, therefore I am. Who am I? Where have I come from? A sense of time, a sense of the future. So, Prabhupada's looking out. That's one thing. We should have a sense of the future and purpose and what is the goal of this life beyond simple accumulation. Prabhupada said 50% of my work is not finished. Anyone know, if you read, you know, Prabhupada was extremely, he was both practical, traditional, and innovative. And I chose those apparently contradictory words by choice. Prabhupada tried what worked, and he looked at it, he steered his ship like a pilot, you know, those airplanes, they're getting signals from the ground, they're constantly calibrating and adjusting their course according to gravity, wind speed, tail speed, they're always course correcting. So Prabhupada was pushing Krishna consciousness forward, and he would course correct. He was seeing what was working, what wasn't working. You know, polygamy, no, forget that. Lusty men will join our society just to take advantage. You know, we're meant for renunciation. So Prabhupada would course correct. If we look towards the end of Prabhupada's instructions, he was talking about Varnashram Dharma. He was talking about Vedic culture. These are things, if we look at it, if we accept, oh, it's purifying, means there's some contamination. We have the whole, why does Krishna spend so much time in Bhagavad Gita talking about the three modes of material nature? It is a progressive step. One has to gradually become purified. So the importance of culture. You know, if you have an airplane when it's landing, they have all the running lamps, you know, the landing lamps, lights, you've seen how they're laid out in a line. The man is in the dark, he's in the fog, he just follows the lights, and therefore he can land the plane properly. Suppose I go out there and say, I don't like the way these lights look. I want to make them into T-lock. I'm going to make different designs. And I make something beautiful. Have I actually helped the plane land? What do you think? Is that a nice service to humankind and the men on the plane and ladies on the plane? Let me just adjust the landing lights. Then the plane crashes. We should not, the great saints, and I'll mention tomorrow because the verse talks about monkeys. One man was talking to Prabhupada about evolution, you know, and we evolved from monkeys and all that. Prabhupada stopped and said, what is the evolution? You are still monkeys. And then Prabhupada said, your ancestors may be monkeys. He said, but my ancestors are the great Vedic sages of India. So we have a choice. If we accept that this life is meant for purification, if we accept that there's contamination, if we accept even in spiritual practice, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's the necessity to evolve through the modes of material nature. If Prabhupada said that 50% of his work is not finished because he has not established Varnashram Dharma, we should not jump over so lightly over the Vedic principles. If I have a flute, suppose, I'm not Krishna, I don't mean like that, just if I have a flute, and I use my flute for holding open a window, you know, sometimes you want a proper window, you put a stick. It'll work, won't it? But is that the best use of that flute? Suppose I want to use that flute as a hammer. Bang, 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 bang. It'll work. But shouldn't I use a flute as a musical instrument? Shouldn't I use a hammer as a hammer? Shouldn't I use a screwdriver as a screwdriver? They all fit together and serve their particular functions. We are in this body for a particular purpose. Krishna has put us all in different bodies. We have different levels of conditioning according to our advancement in our previous life. Yoga Brishta. We're picking up where we left off in a previous life. Therefore, we should accept the Vedic Dharma for this body. Those are the running lamps, the landing lamps, that guide us how to progress in this life. If we whimsically jump over the Varnashram Dharma and Vedic principles, we are pushing aside the necessary stepping stones for becoming Krishna conscious. So there is a problem. We see that, I don't want to go off a deep end here, but as a newly minted sannyas, I don't want to get into trouble. But the simple point is that this is a great service, this Institute for Spiritual Culture, to understand what is the Dharma, what is the proper function, so that we can all together progressively advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal is the same. You know, what is it? Nitai Sarup Krishna Das. We recognize that everyone is Krishna Das. At the same, look around. There's an American principle, I'll end here, and they're very proud of it. That, what is it, the beginning of the Constitution? We hold these truths. Cornerstone of American democracy and democracy around the world. That all people are created equal. Look around this room. Anybody in this room created equal? We all have different strengths, attributes, wealth, you know, intelligence. In fact, if we're all treated the same, we become offended. Wait a minute, I'm an individual. So if we accept, actually, but it's true, how are all people created equally? Pandita Samadarshana. We all see that everyone is not this body, they're the soul, we're all Krishna Das. So it is Prabhupada told, it's one of those wonderful sutras by Srila Prabhupada. The sign of intelligence, Prabhupada said, is the ability to balance opposing points within the mind. It's a great sutra, I'm going to say it again. Intelligence means the ability to balance opposing points within the mind. So to balance how we're all equal and how we're all different. To balance how we're all Krishna Das, but we all have roles and duties in society. And how to not feel, I promised I wouldn't, but now I will. There's a young devotee, and I was teaching him how to drive. How many things are wrong in this picture? He was driven from me, but that's another issue. And I told him, I said, first off, I said, you just sit next to me. And I'll drive the car, and you just pretend like you're driving. You just pick up the vibe for a minute. So we're driving down the street, city street. He says to me, he said, there are so many signs. Stop, one way, do not go. He said, there's so many signs. I said, no. I said, those signs are your friend. We like those signs. Like, if the one way in the traffic is going this way, should I be going that way? If it says no left turn, bridge out, isn't that friend helpful? So similarly, the Vedic traditions, Vedic culture, the roles of Varnashram, they're the signposts for how to smoothly sail in this life. If we disregard them, jumping over that, oh, we're all one, we're all spirit soul, that we are definitely going to run into right off the cliff. So this institute, teaching these Vedic principles, Varnashram Dharma, in tune with how we're all advancing in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada, they said to Prabhupada, he was speaking, you could hear the tape, evidently said it in Finland, but he also said it in France. Communists, mid-70s, so many. So Prabhupada's sitting on the seat, Vyasa-san, and he's speaking that there's first class, second class, third class men. And you hear the students, they get agitated, because it's all to the proletariat, we're all one. And one man starts shouting, you can hear on the tape, I suppose you think you're first class. I suppose you think you're first class. And you hear Prabhupada say, no! And the whole room goes silent. Prabhupada said, I'm fifth class. I am a servant of all the other classes. And the whole room breaks into applause. Prabhupada has completely changed the atmosphere. So the fact of the matter is, we see actually we're all fifth class. We're all servant of the other classes. We're servant, das, anu, das. No doubt. But simultaneously, we have to understand our role in the system of Varnashram Dharma and Vedic tradition. Otherwise, everything will be lost. So thank you for Mother Devaki for taking this bold position and setting up this institution. Hare Krishna.
Briefly, in conclusion, my understanding of culture, perhaps it's something that we can research in Sanskrit, is sadachara, or what is the proper behavior, and what is the original conduct of Krishna's associates in the spiritual world. How they interact, what are the types of behavioral characteristics that they follow in serving Krishna. The spiritual world is centered around the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everyone has a natural, spontaneous affinity driven by love for Krishna to serve him, which is under the direction of the internal potency, Yogamaya. Here in the material world, the reflection of that Yogamaya is Mahamaya. And the method and our goal is actually to learn how to serve Krishna in the proper decorum and the proper laws of conduct that best reflects love for him. And that overall, both individual, family, as well as societal structure is called Vedic structure here in the material world, because it is what is written down within the Vedic literature. And so we find ourselves as conditioned souls trying to as Maharaj had said, Mayapur Goshala, purify ourselves in order to once again come to that level of perfection. We always talk about developing love of Godhead, but developing love of Godhead is not independent of our method of conduct in the different circles of interaction that we have as friends, as family, as husband and wife and children, as superior and junior, as employee and employer. All of these have certain guidelines. Guidelines means that there are certain obligations that we have to follow, and on the basis of those obligations we have certain rights. And when we follow those, then that actually guides us to that platform of purification where we can really express love for Krishna in the best way possible, in the way that the residents of Goloka Vrindavan do. And those rights and obligations are called Varnashram. They're practiced on farms, it's practiced in cities, although expressed with a little more difficulty, but still, to actually learn all of the different rules that guide our lives towards perfection, and to find out what is it that we actually have rights for, because we don't necessarily have right for everything that we think we have right for. And this type of culture, this Vedic culture, this Varnashram culture is, as Mother Devaki originally said, it's the complete antithesis of what we have in the material world. For preaching, Srila Prabhupada said, just add Krishna consciousness to your life. But that's actually not what Krishna consciousness is about in the ultimate sense. Because Srila Prabhupada also said, unless you recognize and you distance yourself from this materialistic culture, this hedonistic culture, you cannot advance in spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. So once we actually come to Krishna consciousness, we can't add just chanting Hare Krishna to our previous behavioral patterns, because as Mataji said, they are contradictory. They're not anukul. They are pratikul for cultivating Krishna consciousness. They are destructive for our spiritual advancement. So how we interact, what are our ways in which we eat, and sleep, and learn, and what we learn, and what are the actual things that we value in life, such as here, we're in this Goshala. Why are we in this Goshala? Because Krishna lives in a Goshala. Krishna doesn't live in a city. Vasudeva lives in a city, but Krishna doesn't live in a city. Krishna doesn't have a university diploma, he doesn't have a PhD, he doesn't, of course he knows everything about quantum mechanics and everything else, because he designed everything, but ultimately, Krishna's a cowherd boy. And our business, just like, I don't know, how many people here know how to actually milk a cow? Pretty good. How many people know how to use a computer? Okay, but using a computer isn't going to get us into the spiritual world. But our business is to know how to milk a cow, how to care for cows, how to chant Hare Krishna, certainly, that's what brings everything out. But there's a whole culture that we read about in Srimad Bhagavatam, that we see devotees practicing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we really need to imbibe that culture. So this verse, Yanisha Sarvabhutanam, those things which are pratikul, we have to leave, those which are not conducive for our proper conduct that helps us cultivate Krishna consciousness, and those which are anukul we have to accept, even in the realm of chanting Hare Krishna. Just recently at our GBC meetings, we're talking about kirtan. And can just chanting Hare Krishna any old way work? Well, in the beginning it does. When people come, walk in the door, we just say, yes, yeah, chant, any way that you chant, that's fine. But after you've been an initiated devotee and you take vows, then chanting any old way doesn't work anymore, then things change. then your obligation changes. And the rights that you get along with that. Yes, in the beginning, chant any old way, that's your right. What will happen? You will advance in spiritual life. But if 10 years later you keep chanting like that, then your rights stop. You don't progress further in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness. So it's such a valuable thing for us to actually understand what is our culture, what is the proper sadachara, the proper conduct, the social structure, the family structure, the entertainment, the way of eating, what we eat. I know it's probably earth-shattering, but Krishna, at least I've never read anywhere that Krishna eats pizza. This may be a very difficult thing for us to actually adjust to and give up, but he doesn't. But he eats all kinds of other things. Do we like those things? Or do we offer what we like to Krishna? Because they're two different things. So for us to actually learn and acquire and learn to develop a taste for this culture is very important. That is the purpose of this institute. We require all of your blessings and all of your participation, and we hope that we can achieve what Srila Prabhupada wanted to achieve. As I was just, I think I was speaking with Govinda Swami Maharaj, who just left this morning. And when Srila Prabhupada first went to he went to the ashram of his godbrother, Ban Maharaj. And this was still back when Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan, before he'd come to the West. And he'd invited other dignitaries and other people. It was a function, and they were sitting at a table with forks and knives and so on. And Prabhupada didn't know what to do with them. So Ban Maharaj, who had come to England and had preached in the West, so-called, he told Prabhupada, Swamiji, if you want to go to the West, because of course Prabhupada was telling everyone he wanted to go to the West, you have to learn how to eat with forks and knives. Prabhupada said, no, I don't want to learn how to eat with forks and knives. I want to teach people how to eat, how Vaishnavas eat, with their hands, sitting on the floor, not in this type of setting. So of course Ban Maharaj said, well, it's not going to work. But it worked. At least it worked for about 10-15 years. Things may be changing, but the idea is, should they change? And anyway, that's another topic of discussion. I've already gone over time. Thank you all very much, and Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Just one last little comment I would like to make. Maybe you have seen, we are saying, promoting a culture of care. That spiritual culture promotes care, whereas materialistic culture actually promotes envy and competition. And I think we all know how important devotee care is. And I personally feel, can you hear me? Yes? I strongly am convinced if we promote the principles of spiritual culture, we will promote devotee care. Because in spiritual culture, every section of society is perfectly cared for. Actually, in spiritual culture, we don't need a devotee care committee, actually. And the fact that we have a devotee care committee, for me it shows how much we are lacking spiritual culture, isn't it? Or am I too bold here saying this? But anyway, in spiritual culture everybody cares perfectly. Everybody wants to give and serve and contribute. But materialistic culture is, what can I get for myself without paying, by getting discount. You know, in Chaitanya Charitamrita there's no talk about
what I mentioned, what Prabhupada told Ban Maharaj, and the other part was Prabhupada said, I'm not going there to learn anything, I'm going there to teach. Which was very telling. In other words, Prabhupada didn't consider that the West or modern world had anything to teach Krishna consciousness.
You spoke about the cows. On Indian streets there are many cows eating garbage. So what can ISKCON do to protect the cows? Like Krishna protected cows. Our focus is not at all on cow protection. From Bengal every day 30,000 cows are going to Bangladesh for slaughter. So ISKCON is doing nothing about cows. So what can we do?
I don't know. You're saying don't know anything about cows. I just hear cows downstairs. So there's cows here. We're doing something about cows. On the other hand, we're not taking over a government where all of a sudden we're going to be stopping all those 30,000 cows going to the slaughterhouse, which is a fact. But we need to educate people, and that's what the function of this institute is, to educate people about the value of cow protection. Because if they don't protect those cows, they may be getting a burger, but they're going to pay a very heavy price for that one burger, but no one's telling them that. Weren't you shocked when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says that for every hair on the body of a cow, you spend 10,000 years in hell? And think twice about eating a burger if you hear something like that.
Point of information, just to be quick. We have a Goshala in San Diego, Southern California, and they get there's a magazine called Dairyman's Magazine. It's like there's walking and golf, there's Dairyman's Magazine. And in one of the advertisements the devotee showed me, it was for this antiseptic scrub, for cleaning the cows. And you do it every 6 months or whatever it is. And they were saying the average cow has over 2,000 hairs per square inch. So one of the devotees figured out the surface area of a cow. So like say, do the numbers. Take 2,000 hairs per square inch, figure the size of one cow, multiply by how many births it has. It is just, the number will crush billions and billions. So that's what I had. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So this plaque we will mount on the wall there, on the entrance where it goes up to my little ashram there. So in the future you will see it there on the wall. So I guess now it's time to have the role play. We have our ladies here. Yes.
Why don't they use the stage and we can get off?
Yes, I have some time. I just came from the program. Oh, maybe you can sit down. Yes. Slowly.
Haribo, yes, nice to meet you again. How are you?
I am very well, my dear. It doesn't work? Oh, excuse me.
I am very well, my dear. 3 years ago, when I met you first time, I was studying in university, and now I'm already a lawyer.
Really?
Yes, I'm so happy about my job. I can do so much for people in Kali Yuga, because, everybody are cheating and so many people need lawyer. And it's one thing. But in Krishna consciousness, I'm also full with my service.
Really?
Yes, I have Namahatha group, Harinama group, Sankirtana group. I can do so much for people.
Really?
Yes. And also I'm so independent about my job. I can donate so much money for
Really?
Krishna
Wow.
consciousness.
So I see you put a lot of energy in your wearing your service.
And a lot of, more than a lot of, yes. And what about you, my dear?
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel fine. So, you know, a few years ago, I met my counselor, and we have a really good, trusting relationship. So he recommended me to get married.
Oh, very great, good.
Yes. And so I have one child now, mother also.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so many things happened. Yes, right. So, but now I feel that I'm really learning how to become humble servant in Grihastha life. You know.
Okay. I don't know about humble. I think I'm the best servant because I can do so many things for devotees. And because of my independence, I really, if I would be married, I think I cannot do it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but see, if you want to go back to Krishna, you have to give up our independence anyway. So actually, in women's body, it's actually good to practice selfless service. And of course, we are not the body, but see, it's like our vehicle, and every vehicle has different function and qualities. And being in a woman's body, you know, it's like driving a sports car, you know. Looks very attractive, very nice,
Exactly.
very powerful energy, you know.
Yes,
very
yes.
nice. And like in a man's body, it's more like tractor, you know.
Yes,
Very strong, can carry very heavy weight, and also because of higher seat, he has also better view, you know. But see, according to these different bodies, you know, there are different qualities.
Oh dear, I don't know. I think I was Prabhupada's life because I'm so attached to my independent, you know. And I think Grihastha life is so boring and so easy. I need some hard service.
No, it's not boring at all. See, Grihastha life is all about ego crushing, you know. Being near my Prabhu, and I have so much experience. When there's a fight, then I always later I see it's actually my false ego tries to be competitive and better than him even, you know, and I can build so much, I can learn so much, and also with my children, you know, it's so much responsibility to have children, you know, because Srila Prabhupada said they are Vaikuntha children, so it's a big responsibility, like also mother is the first guru for everyone, and in Manusamhita there's also quoted that mother is 1,000 times more important than the father.
Oh my dear, I appreciate everything what you said, really, I trust Shastras, but what to do? I'm so attached to my liberty of choice, I'm scared to lose it if I will get married. Really, I don't know what to say, I don't know. You know, I can open my heart for you. So often I feel like I'm empty because I give all my energy for people and I cannot get it back. And very often I start to cry past year. And also, I cannot understand because Srila Prabhupada said we should preach and how to connect Grihastha life and this preaching activity.
Yes, but see, it's not that I'm only cleaning, you know, and they say, yes, Prabhu, and I'm like a slave, you know. We're working together, so we're like a team. And I try, from my side, I try to be an auspicious source of energy to my husband. And we're doing the Mayapur programs, and I also do some programs for Matajis in my home. See, it's like the spine, so it holds the whole body straight, you know. And without the spine, the whole body is useless. But where's the spine?
On the back.
Yes, see, it's in the back, yeah. And men, they're more like the face, yeah. By nature, you know, they have to be in the front. Imagine when the spine tries to go in the front, so it wouldn't work really, and also the head, it wouldn't function. You know, but this is what's going on in modern society, you know, in Kali Yuga. But when the spine is straight and gives energy from the back, and support from the back, there's peace and harmony. And everybody fulfills their purifying duty in Krishna consciousness and can serve Krishna very nicely.
Really, you're a good preacher, it makes sense. I'm so happy to hear it from you.
I'm so sorry, Lalita Sakrichi, but actually, I have to look for my children now. I have to go, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, my dear, I need to go to Harinam too.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Before we start now with the kirtan, I simply want to beg for all of your blessings, because without the blessings of the Vaishnavas, we cannot really do anything. So please give us your blessings that we are able to offer some humble service to Srila Prabhupada and to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement with our Institute for Spiritual Culture. Hare Krishna.